Testing 1, 2, 3. Anyone there? Anyone out there? Anyone out there? Anyone out there? Sugar Skull, how's the gaming? Yeah, I picked up something 2 days ago. So I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I think we're all getting tired of this quarantine, and I have to tell you, it does my heart good to see all these protests. Maybe we'll start to see them here. Had it in January, could very well have been. Mm-mm-mm-mm. It's definitely coffee time. No, definitely. And I'm seeing a lot of issues starting up here. Well, I'll talk about it today. But it's becoming cliche, but it's true. I mean, it's like pick your poison. You want coronavirus, or do you want a zillion other problems from the quarantine? Plus, people seem to keep forgetting the quarantine is not so you're not ever going to get it. It doesn't prevent you from getting it. It's to space it out so that the hospitals aren't overwhelmed. That's it. So if you're going to get it, you're going to get it, quarantine or no. And I may turn out to be an example. I don't know. I got something. Supposed to be in Colombia all summer. Yeah. A lot of people's plans are out the window right now. I will say, though, that if I had to be in a quarantine right here in Armenia, it's probably the most awesome place to be. Because while it's quarantined, if you want to go out and walk, if you want to, I mean, you don't see anybody without a mask. Um, everybody's keeping their distance, but people have a life to live and they're going about it. I will say I'm seeing more street people than ever before. No surprise, but I don't know. I'm more self-imposed quarantine here than anything else. And I still got something, but I suspect what I have is more like a summer cold. Hey, Robert. Surprised to see you woke up by now. Oh, man. People say, why don't you go back to the United States for a while? Even before this. And it's because I always worry that something will come up that will prevent me from being back here. And You know, I'm not over it yet. I'm loving where I am, and I don't want to be anywhere else, and I certainly would never want to be stuck somewhere else. Even in the most awesome place on the planet, the United States, I prefer living here right now. Yeah, we're almost there. Thank God for Rappy. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. I mean, we do get our days we can go to the supermarket, but still, um, not having to stand in line and go on, stupid cat, go away, go away, stupid cat. I'm being attacked. Okay, we're almost there. Got a countdown.
I'll just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go. Thought that I
Good morning. Well, so far, so good. We're off without a hitch. You have a cat. Yeah, I've got a cat. A stupid cat. And so that has become its name, Stupid Cat. Also got coffee. Mm-mm-mm. So, where's the hat? Well, today, probably half of what I'm going to talk about is going to be Ecuador. So we'll be wearing that hat if I remember to put it on. And then, of course, this fine Colombian made semi Western hat. Very nice hat. I'd probably spend $100 on this if I was in the US. Robert, how much did I pay for this thing? I don't know. It was a lot. I think it was maybe like 100,000, something like that. All right. So, welcome to Coffee Time. Coffee Time is this weekly Sunday show that we're up to about 58 episodes, I think. So 58 weeks of Coffee Time. And it's for me to talk about all things where I'm living, Ecuador, Colombia. And sometimes it's the news, sometimes it's mostly what's going on in my life. What am I seeing? What's important to what I'm doing? And I share that information so that if you decide to visit here or move here, it just gives you more of a database. And over the time, we've built up a little, I guess we got a little culture here. You'll see comments if you're on the right media. You can see there's live comments. Feel free to comment or questions, but the questions we try to hold those till the end so I don't miss it. And please, as always, remember to put 4 question marks before the question so it stands out. Because the one on the screen that you're seeing with the big print, sometimes that goes dead on me. God bless you too. So I have it in a white screen that's really small print, and so it's easy to miss things. So today, well, I'm going to start off. I may be coughing and sneezing a little bit. I'm not feeling very good. I had a heck of a fever last night, drinking some ginger tea that burns all the way down, and little sniffles, little achy. Nothing in the lungs yet, and that's the worry. And it's funny because the precautions here have been insane. I mean, you can't come into my building. You can't have guests come in here. Anybody that comes to the building has to stand outside this glass barrier. When you're out walking around, it's like you're not really near anyone. Everybody's wearing a mask. It's I don't know. I think it's a summer cold. I think, it's just you get these things once in a while. But whatever. Y- things will be what they are, and I beat. I mean, even if it is that virus, I beat. I think far more worse. So I'm really not stressing it. Today I'm going to talk about a little bit about podcasts because I got several questions about it. I hope that helicopter is not too loud. I had to go out in town the last couple days, so I'm going to talk about that. I'll talk about pica y placa, pica y cedula. Um, I'm going to talk about Rappy. Where's that video? I'm going to talk about the new car. And last, but to be very cliche, not least, I'm going to talk about the San Martin Foundation in Ecuador. I'm a founding member. I was an officer, vicepresidente. Uh, it's still going. It still exists, and I want to talk about that because I think it's something very important. So today is going to be a mixture: Ecuador, Colombia, 100% me. Sorry about that. Okay, first of all, podcast. Most of you probably don't even know, you're oblivious that it even exists, but I started a podcast. And it's funny because I started a podcast because for about 2 years I've got a couple viewers that kept pestering me to do a podcast. Oh, I want to do a podcast. I got my hands full with these videos. I mean, it's a full-time job as it is. And they were telling me, I wrote a blog when I first moved to Cuenca, Ecuador. Shortly after I got there and I got the apartment, I started writing. I used to write a lot. I was editor of a magazine. I'd written several hundred articles in the past, and I'm not saying I'm a good writer, but I would have good topics, and so I used to write. It was my way of getting things out. I can still express things in writing that I could never do like this or even in person. So anyway, I began doing this blog, writing it out, and I put it online for people because I wanted them to see what was going on. The things that were awesome and amazing with the rose-colored glasses, and then as things started taking a turn, I brought people along with that. And it's been a very small group of people that followed those. I think like 35 maybe that followed those. So back on the podcast, why don't you do a podcast of that blog? In other words, why don't you read those? Which, how exciting is that? Why don't you read those so that some people can't access the reading? And I just blew it off, but now I've got a couple friends actually here in Colombia that are blind or semi-blind, and uh, it just got me to thinking because I got another email. When are you going to do that podcast? So I decided to look into it. It's not that difficult, except for sitting there and recording myself reading my writing, choking on my words because I was so naive about some things, like we all are when you make these kind of changes. Um, and I had an inside person, so I had a heads up on a lot of things. So so I decided to do the podcast, and I'm on part 2 now, which is 3 of the blogs. If they're not at least 10 minutes worth, then I'll combine them. So the podcasts are out there. That's the reason. If you're not interested in those writings, well, you actually on the GrandColumbia.live, you can just read that blog. It says blog and podcast, and you can click on that. They're there, and you just go through them. the upside is on the blog, I've got photos at the time and video clips and things like that in each of the articles, where in podcast you don't have that. So when I'm showing how to use your Google translating to find the right kind of milk, um, you're not going to get that in the podcast. I didn't even mention it. But, okay, so that's why the podcast. Number two, it was a very busy town. It was quite the contrast. Somehow I'll figure out how to do a video. It may only be 5 or 6 minutes long, showing some video that I took a month ago where the streets were dead silent. Nobody out, no cars out. And then 2 days ago, I think, I was on the corner as they're delivering a car here on a flatbed because they couldn't drive it that day. So I'm out there getting ready to do a video of that for the video that I'm going to do. And I noticed there's the traffic is almost normal. I mean, it was crazy. There's bus after bus, taxis everywhere, people driving, and I'm looking at their license plate, and nobody's following the pica y placa. In other words, you have a day that you can go out and drive, and you have days where you're not supposed to drive. It goes by the last digit of your plate, and that's just being totally blown off. People have cabin fever and they got things to do. Hold your questions till towards the end. I know there's a question there and I would like to answer it, but I already have trouble with my train of thought. Uh, so I took video and I'm noticing all this and I realized how much everything's opening back up. I mean, it seemed normal, and that's what was unusual about it. Is it's not supposed to be normal right now, but it kind of seemed normal. Then I had to walk down to Parque Fundadores. I had to go to the ATM down there. I hadn't been in a long time, and about out of money. I had to, you got to have some cash for the deliveries. So I walked down there, and the only people without masks are the people that are basically the beggars. And I never see that many. As a matter of fact, the ones that I see are the same ones. Like there's a guy that sits outside the Movistar office, the cell phone office, and it's a big building. He sits right outside on this little wall, and he's there, not now, but he was there every single day except Sunday. And I would walk down every day and I would see him, and he's legless, and he's legless because he was caught up in the wars in the 80s with the FARC and that sort of thing, and it cost him his legs. And you see a lot of amputees from those times. So he's not there, and that's the guy. He's my chosen charity. So when I go by, I always drop something, for him. If I don't have anything on the way down, then coming back, I'll have something. I put it in for him. So he's my designated guy. But you only see a few. Well, the other day there was a ton of people I'd never recognized. There was a couple skinny Venezuelan guys accost me right outside my building, rubbing their stomach, going hombre, hombre. It was the difference of that was as striking as the difference in the traffic. I mean, it's like it's tough out there, but I know that because I'm being contacted by people that I know that have family members that are literally starving. And anyway, so I mentioned pica y cedula. What is that? Well, as they do for the cars for the quarantine, they're doing it so you can go into the store. How do you know what day it is to go in the store? The last digit on your cedula. Mine is 2. And so every week they send out a chart of what days are your days. Mine's Friday. and I can go to the store, they check the schedule, I can go in, I can do my shopping. That's so the stores aren't overcrowded. I don't think it's all that effective, to be honest with you, because it's created these lines, and you can wait in line. One time I waited an hour and a half. Normally I just walk away, but I didn't have anything better to do anyway, and I'm taking some video clips that'll be coming up in some things. So I stayed in the line. So it's about almost an hour and a half, and I go in the store, and it's about as many people as normal, because the thing is, these stores, they're just open and people come and go, throughout the day. Well, now they're being funneled, and it's creating a crowding situation that's like normal, which isn't crowded, and normally it isn't. And except now you're having to wait in line for the privilege, and I just don't think it's very effective. But this is what they're doing all around the world, and it's like monkey see, monkey do. There's so many things that are crazy to me, and I just have to, this is my George Carlin thing. Oh, by the way, somebody sent me a reminder, a show that he did on the virus years ago in the 80s on the virus. And look up George Carlin virus on YouTube. It's hilarious and very prescient. I think he was talking about the bird flu back then. And everything he says applies so well today. But we're seeing this, wash your hands and wear the mask and keep your distance and all that. But the thing is, I go down, I'm at the ATM. I've got to open a door to get into the ATM. If you wear gloves, it doesn't change anything, because you're still your mask is always. I touch my face more with a mask than I ever did otherwise, because the thing's constantly moving around. Sometimes it fogs up my glasses, and if you got gloves that won't change anything, it'll be on the gloves, might as well be on your hands. So you got to open the door, you get in, and you stand there and wonder how many people push those buttons. It's like everywhere you go, you've got railings. As we're in line going down to the store, how many people that normally would never touch those railings, but because they're kind of staying there and waiting, they're leaning up against them, spreading all kinds of their creepy crud all over it. And now I get up there and I'm spreading my creepy crud all over it. I just, it's like, it sounds good, but I think I don't know. I think it's a bunch of. Anyway, number 4, the Rappy video. I promised you the Rappy video. It was supposed to be this last Thursday. What's going on with it? Well, I'm sorry to say, Sandy, are you there, by the way? If you are, leave a comment. I'm sorry to say that I haven't done a thing on that Rappy video past what I had already done, opening a folder and putting some things in there to prepare to edit, because I got so busy this week. I had so many things going on, that I just had something had to go, and I had to put that aside. So I'm sorry. It's definitely coming out, but right now so many things have happened. I've got so many videos now that I've got to plan for, and you're not even going to see most of them until sometime in June. So the Rappy video is definitely coming out. I believe it will be the next video, but I've got a lot of them I'm working on. Say, why are you working on them? Well, I'm not editing them. What you do is you create a folder for each project, and then in that folder you have folders for pictures and videos and screenshots and music and whatever it is. And so you're gathering up and organizing this stuff, and as a topic comes along that I definitely need to make a video on that, then I have to create those projects and start preparing as I go, so that I don't forget. They need to be there so that when the time comes, I can jump in, pull the folder into the editor, and just start working on it. It's way more complicated than this live thing. and you see all the problems I had with this live thing. So, uh, whew, a little muggy today. Um, or maybe it's the wet from the shower. Or maybe it's the fever that I've got. Yeah, it could be why I'm sweating. Um, so anyway, that's the deal with the Rappy video. I definitely will be doing it. I believe it's going to be the next one. I did not forget about it, and it's a valuable one. If you want to know anything about uh, doing things like surviving a quarantine in Colombia. Now, Rappy is also in Ecuador, but I think it's only in Quito. I'm not positive. It may be in Guayaquil now, but it's spreading. It's kind of like its own virus. It's cool in Pereira. Muggy, it's cool in Pereira. Well, it's it's always a degree or two warmer in Pereira than it is here. It's not hot here, and it's really not muggy. I've got a fever, and I just took a shower, and what happened was I did this and a handful of wet. Well, it's a combination between the fever that I've got and my wet hair. So they have Rapri in Brazil. Well, that's where it began. It started in Brazil. Uh, but the Rappi that's in Colombia was a company in Colombia that Rappi bought up. So that Rappi is now considered almost Colombian based because that's where all the traffic of it is and the success of it. But it's actually throughout South America and other places. But I covered some of that in a video already. So anyway, that's the deal on the Rappi video. It's an important one. I will get it out there. Good morning. New car. Well, it's not a new car. It's a 2004. But I bought a car. And as you can imagine, that's going to generate the need of about at least 5 videos. I've got 5 projects set up where some I've just yet to put things in. But it's, I'm going to be doing videos on how to purchase a car, where to look, how to go about it. It's extremely difficult when you're quarantined and you can't leave, but there's ways, and I'm familiar with cars, so that helped. Um, but I will talk about how to find the car, what to do, what to look for. I'll talk about the. I get these questions a lot, so now's my chance to do the video. How does the registration work? What's it like? I notice license plates that are from different cities. What goes on there, and how do you get your driver's license? And what's the car insurance? Is it difficult? Is it expensive? All of this will be videos. So anybody who's interested in that. Now, I do not recommend getting a car unless you've got a specific reason. Like, I have a very, very good and very specific reason. It's all about this channel to have a car, and it's going to have to earn its money back because the money that went out of that car I really couldn't afford. But sitting here quarantined, can't go anywhere. The exchange rate is up, so I've taken that windfall. I've turned it into a car. Um, but I'm going to be using it when people come here and they want to, they want to go this place or that place. Then, I'll charge them the going rate, and I'll take them around, and so hopefully it's going to make its money back. I hope. Um, it was a very cheap car, and I negotiated it even cheaper. I got it kind of on the bottom end. It's like basically it's like a resurrected junker kind of thing. I mean, it looks good. Mechanically, it has 4 brand new tires. The front brakes are new. It had a timing belt last year put in it, but it's got a lot of miles. It's over 100,000 miles, and the interior is absolutely trashed. So anyway, I'm going to do videos on all of that, and that's upcoming. And that took some time because while I have these thoughts now, I better start getting them organized so that it's ready when the time comes. How much is insurance for beater like that. Well, I'm going to do a video on it, but basically, insurance is kind of cool. You have your liability insurance required, and then you can opt for, collision insurance. You can also take your liability insurance and you can up it because it's a very low threshold. So if you got in an accident, somebody got hurt pretty bad, they can sue you for, the gap, and so you can get insurance, for that also. But for cars, I don't remember the year. I may have this wrong, but it's something like up to 2014. Say it's a set price. If you have a car that's 1.5 liter or less, it's this price. If you have a car that's 2.0 liter, it's this price. And it runs anywhere from about 400,000 to 600,000 a year uh, for the liability insurance. So we're talking 120, 150 bucks, something like that. On my car, it's 485,000, which is going to be most cars below that 2014 year. Now, what's above the 6 years above it? It's cheaper. The newer the car, the cheaper it is. You have a Techno here, which is it's a safety slash emission inspection. It's very similar to the United States. The plates stay with the car, so in that sense, it's like California. Um, so there's a lot to it. I will do a complete video on it. It will be a series: buying the car, and then the transfer process, and getting the insurance and inspection, and getting your driver's license, which I do not have. I got my US, and you can only use that for 6 months. So I can't legally drive. I had planned to go to the driving school. It's 900,000 here in Armenia. It's more like 1.5 million in Medellin or Bogota. But quarantine, there is no driving school, and God knows when it's going to open up again. So the car's going to sit in the garage. I Why'd you buy it now? Why didn't you wait? Because I really need that money, and I would have spent it. Now, it's like I'm broke for the next couple weeks, and then after that, I've got expense. You know how it goes. You know how life goes. If you don't have a ton of money, and it's like if I don't buy that car now, I may whittle away at that money, and if I don't have it, then you have to find another way. So that's what I decided to do. And it took me a couple of weeks to decide on this car. There were several that I was looking at. I think there were like 4 cars. I had narrowed it down, and I was sorting through. But this one had so much mechanical stuff done to it. The paint's not great. Um, just cosmetically, it's got some issues. Like there's some trim pieces that need to be super glued, and like that. And the seats, I can't tell you. It's like they kept pigs in the in the inside. It's just terrible. But those seats, somebody came yesterday into the garage, pulled the seats out, took them off, and they're going to bring them back reupholstered. And there'll be a video on that. You'll be amazed how cheap that is, particularly now. He's like, why are you doing that now? Well, I'm doing it because I had a little figured if a car is going to need something, and right now you can make bargains of your lifetime, and so I went ahead and did that. Uh, excuse me. There's no such thing as international driver's license. That is not a driver's license. It is absolutely worthless. I've gone that route. I've had it before. I got pulled over when I was in England with one, and they laughed at me because it's not a driver's license. All it does is records the license that you have. But if you have the license that you have, you don't need an international driver's license. It 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 does not permit you to drive anywhere. There's such a misunderstanding about those things. I've had people argue with me. It's like, but they never had one. I have. I've traveled a lot. I've been all over the world, and I thought that was a thing. And never found a place where it was anything. Now, some police will look at it and be very respectful and aha, yeah, but they're just being nice. If you, the more you dig into it, you realize it is not permission to drive a car anywhere. Um, it's just it's just vouching. It's not even verified because it's not certified. It's just vouching that you said you have a driver's license. Yeah, it's a cash cow for a AAA. Yeah, that's part of it. It is a ripoff. It is absolutely meaningless. So if I got an international driver's license and I drive here in Colombia and I get pulled over and I show them that, as they're laughing their asses off, they're going to haul me off to jail and tow the car. Uh, well, maybe not, but they do tow the vehicle. They do take the vehicle, and it's going to cost you hundreds of dollars to get it bailed out. Actually, I have somebody watching this right now who has a friend who experienced something similar of that happening to them. And yeah, it's just not something you want to mess around with. So I will be getting a driver's license, and I will film as much as that as I'm permitted. I'll definitely come up with some, clips and pictures and things like that. I'll do some covert stuff, like when we're signing the papers from this car. They didn't want to be on video, but I got my phone. I was holding my phone, and I clicked on record, and I moved it up, and so I got a shot of them, talking and filling papers out and things. It's not a big deal, but you got to have something if you're doing a video, right? Okay, so that's that. Lots of videos coming up on that. San Martin Foundation. Now, many of you know, plus I mentioned at the beginning, that this is a foundation that I was in on. I had a house in Hiron, huge house, lived there alone. And I had to leave after a year because of internet issues. It cost me a fortune um, to not, well, hold on. It's a little cold now. Um, so I had to move back to Cuenca, and I had friends at the time. Audrey, her sister Sandy. I met Sandy. He introduced me to Audrey, and we were doing this language exchange thing and hanging out for the language. And we became friends, and so I got to move back to Cuenca. Well, at the same time, Audrey needed to move from where she was. Sound is very low. Sorry about that. Turn yours up. Mine shows that it's up there. Let me see if I can move it a little more. Is that any better? I don't know if it is or not. But you'll have to turn yours up. There's some things that I don't get a lot of control over with this setup. So anyway, she also had to move, so we talked sort of about, well, we'll get a place together. And we weren't talking that serious about it, but we just it kind of dropped. But I had to go, and my time was up. I'd already told my landlord. Oh, I barely moved it. It was like I moved. It was like 4 notches from max. Okay, well, I'm glad. It's good to know. Uh, See, I get distracted so easily. Bird. So I had to move anyway. I got the movers all set up. It was great. They moved an entire household. It was a semi truck. I had a ton of stuff. I was living in a 5-bedroom house, and I had beds in all of them. I was making a lot of money back then, and so they're moving a 5-bedroom house, kitchen, everything, in this semi truck, and it was under $200 with 4 movers, a truck, moving it from Hiron to Cuenca, unloading the truck and putting it in the rooms where I'm directing them to put it, or all the boxes. It was crazy. And there was so much, they took the semi truck and also had to have a big pickup truck to follow behind because there was so much stuff. So anyway, I'm all set. And I said, well, I'm moving anyway. So the day I get into the house, she gets back to me, is it too late? What I got was a 4-bedroom house. I was paying $400 a month for it. It was a 4-bedroom house. It had one, two, three, 4 bathrooms, or 3.5 bathrooms. It was a 3-story, so there was a bedroom and a bathroom on the top story with a sitting room. And then on the second floor, it was the master bedroom, my bedroom with a bathroom. And then there's a bathroom in the hall. These are always showers. And 2 bedrooms across from each other there. And then there was a half bath downstairs. And it was 2 living rooms, open to each other. The dining room, kitchen, all big, all good size. And so yeah, sure, go ahead. So a few days later, she moved in with her son, Martin, moved in with her son, and Sandy and her kid, the little monster girl, 4 years old. Drove me crazy. So Sandy and the monster was on the 3rd floor. On the end bedrooms was Audrey and Martin, and then I'm at the other end of the house in my little suite. And outside my suite, I had this office area, which was my video studio, and so lots of room. And we were together, all in that house for, I don't know, 7, 8 months maybe, until I moved here. So during that time, Audrey and I talked a lot about some issues that we had seen, uh, with some things that we had done. These kids out on the street that 8, 10 years old selling packs of gum, and there's like this criminal organization that runs these kids, and they send them out to sell things and then come back, and they give them food and a place to sleep, and they collect the money. And they're not in school because they're doing that. And so Audrey wanted to do something about it. So we ended up starting up this foundation. It was extremely difficult in Ecuador. It was expensive, and it took about 6 months from the time the process began until it was legally ready and set up. You had to have a certain amount of money in the bank. There was endless bureaucracy, but that's Ecuador anyway. They don't make it easy, but it's a legitimate legal foundation that was to help these kids get them off the street and back in school. And there's a reason why they were out there, and I won't go into that now, but it was to address that and get them back into school. And so sure, so I went along for the ride on that, and I had my duties to do, and when I came here, it was still doable, but they didn't really need me for much of anything. But I get a call recently. They're changing the charter of the foundation, because getting them back in school, that's all well and good, but they're literally kids starving in Cuenca right now. I mean, literally starving. Zero food. And it's it's a big problem that's growing massive. And so it's not only going to be that issue, but you're going to have all the things around it. How much are people going to take? It's hit hard there, harder than here. Um, so they're changing the charter to basically get food to these kids or the families. And because Audrey works for the government of Osway, she's a director of, I don't know, she's a big mucky muck of the state of Osway. She has access to the database of Colombia, so she has all of the addresses and names and ages and who lives in what house, and so they have these clients. What's going on? Hold on, let me check this. Somebody might be telling me the stream went dead. Oh no. Nobody's telling me the stream went dead. Sorry about that interruption, but you never know. This thing crashes all the time. It's a love-hate, mostly hate. So, anyway, she has access to all this information, all this data, and so that's where they find who needs. Plus, they see things. You just if you go out, you'll see things. And right now, they're seeing these kids that they were working to get in school, keep in school, whatever, and just starving. So the the direction of the foundation has changed. We had a meeting on Zoom, so it's like Skype, only you can have a bunch of people in it. There were 7 of us, and so we're on there, and everybody agreed to change the direction. And so now the San Martin Foundation is going to, thank you, I appreciate the contribution. The San Martin Foundation is going to be um, aimed at getting food to these kids. Now, it becomes a little problematic because in Ecuador, and those people from Ecuador watching, um, I have to say things the way it is. There was a foundation there for years with a heart of gold that looked really good on paper. They were very good, very slick, very polished. They were really out there. They rubbed shoulders with all the important people in town. They did these splash events. They made sure their logo was everywhere. And the guy who started it um, ended up out of the country with a couple $1 million in the bank. And there's been some other scams. Cuenca is like this target um, historically, where if you contribute something, there's a good chance it's just going into somebody's pocket. Now, I got a hold of somebody that we're Facebook friends, known each other that way for, I don't know, 5 years maybe. And we have some mutual friends and some that are actually friends of mine. And so anyway, he's been helping some single moms with a similar situation with no income. I think 5 families. He's been basically keeping them fed, and so we're talking about this, and he says, well, I can give food, I can help, I can volunteer, but I'm gun shy about giving money. Been down that road, been there, done that, and I completely get that, and I don't disagree. But this isn't about raising money. There's nobody that gets um, on the board. Nobody gets paid. This is about it all goes to that. So I've been asked to do a push, which this is not. I'm just letting you know right now of what's going on in my life. But I will be doing some social media things. I'll be doing some videos, not on this channel, but on its own channel, talking about this, because they're not just looking for money. Of course, contributions keep everything working, but they want people to contribute food. Be it a bag of rice, a bag of beans, whatever it is. Plus, they need volunteers, to get this stuff up, deliver it. Plus, they actually want to do something that they haven't done in the last 3 years of existence, and that's open the board up for more members. There's 7. They want to open it up to more members. They want to put more people on the board that want to do something, that want to help. And so they're looking for help in whether you have expertise in a certain area, if you want to volunteer and pack bags of, you know, help somebody transport somewhere, if you want to give food, or if you just want to, send money to, to this. It's legit. I can completely vouch for it. I know from the inside. It's been around for a number of years. You've never heard anything bad about it because they don't do anything bad. It's real and legit. I get not a dime from it. As a matter of fact, I put a lot into it where I never got reimbursed for it. I never asked. They don't even know that what I put into it. And everybody that works with it is really of the same mind. You know, we're not here for that. We're here to do something. So that's another project that I'm working on that stopped this rappy thing. You know, while actually the night that I was to start that video in earnest to have it ready for Thursday was when we got this conference call, and then it kind of derailed me because I've got, you know, there's a payment gateway that I got to figure out. There's just Instagram and Facebook and open a YouTube channel and just all kinds of things that have to get done that frankly I just don't even have time for, but I said I would do them. So so that's been my week. That's what's been going on. You can start asking your questions now. 4 question marks, please. I know there was one earlier. I didn't see it and I didn't want to stop. It looked like somebody else may have answered it, but please go ahead with, you know, whatever questions you have. Uh, and please look for this foundation, even if you're not in Cuenca, Ecuador. It is a hot spot. There's some bad things going on there, and it's a great place to visit. And I'd hate to see that ruined, even if you don't live there. It's a place I always recommend to visit. I don't recommend living there, but I do recommend, you know, going and visiting, spending some time, because there's some beautiful things about it. And I hate to see it get. You hate to see this happen. You hate to see it happen anywhere, but it's it's gotten very serious for a group of people there. So that's it. Do we have any questions? What time is it? Well, we got some time. We got about 15 minutes for questions if you got them. There is, I've noticed there's a significant delay in this, and that's through YouTube. I, you know, so if I ask for questions, it takes a while for them to pop up. But you know, shoot, go ahead. I got all day. Please don't tell me I lost the stream. Only had 1 page of notes today. Usually it's like 3, 4, 5 pages. So maybe no questions today. Maybe we can end it. Well, we got something. Here we go. Notice your internet is not dropping like a few weeks ago. Okay, the internet problem I had was I could not pay online. It was not accepting my debit card. I can go to Movistar, it's accepted. Here, it wasn't. And they're not like uh, required services. So if you're late with those, they can turn you off. They turned mine off. I solved it with Rappi. When I do the Rappi video, I'll explain that. Doesn't matter what you have, you can pay. So anyway, I had no internet, and so I was piggybacking off of my friend who's on the 3rd floor, off of his for the video. I didn't know if it was going to work or not, and it turned out it didn't work. It just the signal wasn't strong enough, and he has a different company, and he has issues within his apartment where I don't. So apparently my signal is a lot stronger through the company I've got, and I could use my phone on his internet, but for stream something like this, there was no way. So that's why it's working now, and it wasn't working before. Any information? You didn't do the 4 question marks. Flawless presentation. Yeah, about as flawless as it's going to get. Information on international flights when they'll resume. Nobody knows. Literally nobody knows, and they can't seem to decide. This quarantine is supposed to end, at least in the form that we have now, May 11th. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up extending it. I don't know why they would, um, because people are, I'm not going to say they're ignoring it, but they kind of are. You know, they're saying, we're not going to sit in our apartment and die because we don't have money and because You know, so that's why you're seeing more people out. And that's why it's beginning to look almost normal. Uh, but the flights aren't going to start until they have some sense that there's not going to be this big influx. So I think as the world kind of calms down, which it appears to be, uh, that's when flights will open back up. But nobody has said yet. We don't know. International flights, my guess is beginning of June. I've got some things. There's been some bargains. Uh, there's a particular microphone I've needed for years. Just didn't have the money. I I got discount after discount through it's a company here. I'll do a video on that too. That you can order things from the U.S. You you take, for example, Amazon. You take the link and you just plug it into their thing, and it kicks up. And they'll buy it and bring it here and bypasses a lot of the expenses. This microphone was discounted because of what's going on, and then this company itself put a $10 off. So I ended up buying this microphone for about 20 bucks for a microphone that cost over 100 bucks. You know, so I looked at it, it's like you're never going to get these things again. And this is why, this money crunch is real. So I went ahead and bought that microphone. But the problem is they don't have even shipping flights coming for most things. So there are shipping flights coming into Colombia, but for a lot of things there's restrictions. So I'm told the projection of receiving that is the middle of June. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm you know I'd love to get my hands on that thing. I'm really excited about it. It would be nice to have really good sound for a change. Um, I pay Claro at their office. They do not send paper bill, only by internet. Yeah, the same here. I don't get any paper bill. I get an email, but like I say, I can go into the office, and the office near me does not take cash. So I can give them my debit card. They run the debit card, not a problem. So I had a routine. It's just a few blocks from my house. I go down that way anyway, so it's not even out of my way. I stop in, done. But that office has been closed, so I could not go into that office. And the one downtown, which also takes cash, it's their main office, even though it's a little bitty office. Um, Somebody was down there, and I said, "Hey, could you check that office?" And they said, "No, it's boarded up." Sent me pictures of the front with all the signs, closed down. I had no way to pay the bill. I have tried to pay online for the last year and a half. I've tried again and again and again. It just will not. The payment's always rejected. It's not that my card isn't registered here because I can use it for every like I say I can walk down into their office and pay it, but I could go on the internet the same day. Doesn't work. And you find that with some things online. You don't have any issues normally, but for some reason this particular website doesn't want to work. So Rappy solved it. So normally it's not a problem, but this quarantine, little things come up, because it's out of the routine, and you got to find workarounds. Yeah, it's kind of the story of life, right? Um, I think I heard Argentina suspended commercial flights until September. You heard, right? I read the same thing. It seems crazy to me. I completely do not get the reasoning for that. Uh, you know, it's almost like this has turned into two camps, and you see in places like the U.S. here in Colombia, it's almost political. Like if you're on the left end of the spectrum, you want everybody quarantined for as long as possible. They talk 18 months and all kinds of stuff. And if you're on the right end of the spectrum, then enough is enough, and people are starving in their homes, and we'll take our chances. I mean, this is what sadly it's turned into. But if you go back, which I'd spend several weeks of digging into so much detailed information. And you go back and you look at things like the SARS and the bird flu, and um, go back to the 1918, and you look at all of those things and what's being experienced throughout the world here. It just seems like massive overkill. It's not to say that it's not real, but the thing is, you're going to have deaths. You can't stop it. And as I said, this quarantine is not stopping what that would be. All it's doing is spreading it out. So I don't know. I'm kind of the mind now, like, I'm susceptible to the problem. If they didn't have this quarantine in Armenia, I probably wouldn't be doing anything any different than what I'm doing now, because I know I have an issue. So I would be here. As a matter of fact, I had put myself in here 2 weeks before it ever became a thing, a legal thing here. And I think that's what you find. It's like, I guess if you're on the conservative end of this, I don't mean Republican, but if you're more conservative and less, socialistic minded, uh, you kind of really go with this personal responsibility kind of thinking, where as long as we have facts to work from, that we should be able to make our own decision. And I think those are the protests that you're seeing, not just in the U.S. but in other places. It's like, it's our life. Let us make our own decision. You just give us real information, you know, so that we can make our own decision. We don't need, a babysitter telling us what to do and how to do it. And so that's what I mean by, from my point of view, it seems like overkill. It's not that people shouldn't be doing things that they're saying, but it's that I don't think governments anywhere should be, you know, taking families at gunpoint out of playgrounds. And if that's what they choose to do, they do it. And if there's a price to pay for that, they're going to pay it. And you say, well, but they're affecting other people. No, because those other people have a choice too. They don't have to be out in that playground with them. So, okay, so can you prepay for multiple months? Um, no. This funny thing, in the US you can do that. You can just kind of put it in and it's like stacked into an account. I would do that on vacations just because I wouldn't want to deal with it. Here, um, I actually tried it in Ecuador and I tried it again here. Here only once. And they just won't accept it. Whatever that account says is what they will accept. And you can't put a dime more in it. Now, I learned in Ecuador not to do that. Even if they would do it, don't trust anybody. I do not trust banking there. I just had issues. I knew people that had issues. Here, it's really, you're kind of like in the U.S. where everything's mostly the same. I feel very comfortable and secure here with things like accounts. I don't have to micromanage them like I did in Ecuador, but still, you learn those lessons, and that's why I don't have a Colombian bank. I never will, and they've been around for decades and decades, very solid and secure, but I don't need it. Okay, I think the purpose of the quarantine was to prevent the spread of the virus and overwhelming the hospitals, not stopping yeah, it it's not so much prevents the virus is going to be there. Uh, it's like, I know you can't compare it to the flu. Well, actually, it is a flu type virus. It's the common cold is a coronavirus. Um, so I actually have a coronavirus, even if it's not the COVID-19 virus. And I just demonetized this video by mentioning that because censorship is going really hard in Facebook and in YouTube. And if you even mention it, they'll make sure that you don't receive advertising money, even though they're going to run ads on this video. After this is done, they'll put ads in it. They'll just keep all the money. So yeah, sore subject. So it's not going to be prevented. Once a new virus comes out, it's there. It's going to be there. It'll be there probably twice a year from now on. And so the thought of are you gonna lock down economies twice a year for the rest of you know existence of the human race? They're dealing with H1N1 still is alive and kicking. It's still out there. So they do these flu shots every year, which I only ever had one forced on me when I was in the Marine Corps in the 70s, and the needle broke off in my arm because we were on ship. And then they had to take vice grip, or it was channel lock pliers to pull it out of my arm. I swear to God, we were on the hangar deck, helicopter. So, I never had a flu shot after that. In that case, people were saying, well, we don't want to have one because we'll get the flu. Because back then, when you got a flu shot, you got sick. It's like, well, if I'm going to get sick, at least I have a chance of not getting sick if I don't get the shot. If you get the shot, you are guaranteed to get sick. That's how it was back then. It was when the flu shots first began. And their thing was, yeah, you don't have to have one, but you won't get your paycheck unless you've had it. So everybody lined up. So I got sort of a flu shot. I don't know. I don't know at what point. The water was terrible, and it kind of lurched, and the needle actually broke in my arm. So I don't even know if it got into my arm or not. But that was the only time. I never did it after that. But the everything that they suggested certainly spread out. So maybe you would have had a ton more people catch it if things were normal. And if they're locked in their house, then they might not catch it for a month or two. And that's what it boils down to. So it's not that there's no guarantee that you're not going to get it. If you're going to get it, you're going to get it. It's simply to keep it from overwhelming. I've talked to a number of people who have this idea of, well, it's like if you don't do those things, then you're going to catch it, and you're going to cause other people to get sick, and other people are going to die, and how many are you willing to kill by not following these rules? And it doesn't work that way. It's not how it works. So anyway. Delaying things increases the chance of the effective treatments to be developed. Yeah, well, that's true too. Although that wasn't the motivation was to keep the hospitals from being overwhelmed. That's the entire basis for these quarantines. Now here in Condillo, we're several months into this thing, right? And what are we up to? 61 cases, I think. It's like nothing. I think I said maybe last week, there's probably more cases of stub toe than there is of coronavirus. I think we're up to 2 possible deaths here in Condillo. And I say 2 possible because it seems like there's a lot of confusion about whether somebody died because of the coronavirus or they died from something else. So that seems to be worldwide too. But 2 people have died, and it's been contributed to the coronavirus in the entire state of Condillo. So it's like you look around, it's like how many people, our lives are being destroyed. Anyway. I've been contemplating what to do if they start forcing everyone to get a coronavirus vaccine when it's developed. Yeah, it's I've managed to get through life fine without ever having a flu shot. And for me and for other people with the lung situation like I have, a basic flu is as deadly as this coronavirus would be. It's like you look in Ecuador. I had pneumonia 3 times the year before I came here. There was no coronavirus, but it's like you're knocking on death's door every time you get pneumonia, and every time you get it, it's worse than the time before. So I don't know. Um, there's always many more cases than the official number. Well, that's true too. Testing has really kicked in here in Colombia. Just in the past week, I'm reading about there's so much more testing, and one of the problems was the tests they were using prior. They were getting a lot of false positives, and they were using these tests from China. And and then I read an article that in the U.S. they've actually banned those tests because they were getting so many false positives. So you know, their test that didn't work, and it's just basically it defaulted to you got it, and then you find out well you actually didn't have it. Lauren, start to watch. No, I've seen I've seen in particular that I watched the video on um, LBRY library. It's kind of like a YouTube, and the video that was pulled down of the doctors in California, you can actually find that video there because they don't censor anything. And you know, I saw that video. I've seen. I don't need to see more, to be honest with you. I know what you're saying. I've seen that. I don't need to immerse my entire life into it. I've got enough information to have formed, to have made my own informed opinion for me, and so I will act accordingly to that. Unfortunately, you know, governments are inflicting things on us, and it's okay. You know, I'm in a position because none of my money comes from the Colombian economy. It all comes from, you know, retirement, things like that. So, you know, I can still buy food. I can get on, but there's people here that, you know, their job is shut down. They're not getting money, and so what are they supposed to do? How long do you go? I mean, the cupboards are bare. It's been a couple months now, and that's where it gets to the point where a lot of there's a lot of problems that are being created in this very moment that are going to be far greater than the impact of any virus. There'll be a shortage of any vaccine they might come out with for at least the first few months of the year. You know, my biggest concern with that is in the U.S. Well, if you don't get the vaccine, kind of like what when I was in the Marine Corps, if you don't get this, you're not going to get your paycheck. Well, in the U.S., they say, well, yeah, it's your choice. You don't have to do it. But what if they start saying, yeah, except you can't buy gasoline, or you can't enter a grocery store, or you can't cash your paycheck. Your bank account will be frozen until you provide a certificate saying, I mean, what if they do things like that? So, yeah, it seems like a lot of people are taking advantage of this situation to do things that they've always wanted to do. Okay, we've run an hour. I think that's about it. So, if we're good, I'm going to end it here. You can see that even though that video didn't come up on your end, it probably seemed like you know it's not much going on. But from my end, as I've explained today, my life is busier than it's busy. It's busy, and nobody reminded me. We're talking about Ecuador, and I didn't wear my Ecuador hat. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you for being there. Thanks for the contributions. I appreciate all of you joining me. Many of you I've gotten to know. Many of you have become friends, and so it's good to see you in the chat. And we'll see you next week.